Onto your market news now. We do see that United States stocks did close in positive territory last night, while today in Asia markets were rather mixed. On our local stock exchange, the All Share Index, we do see that the market is in positive territory. But just to give us a quick update on how he sees the markets and the drivers, I'm joined by Warwick Lucas. He's the Chief Investment Officer at Galileo Capital. Thank you so much, Warwick, for joining us. Now, 3 days after the US elections, how are the markets calling it? And no matter who wins, is a large fiscal stimulus package still expected?
Nompu, I think that the market is pretty sure that we're looking at a democratic victory. I think we will only get absolute certainty on that towards the middle of the month. For example, some states are automatically going to have recounts, one being Wisconsin, and some states are in any case running quite long timelines in terms of their postal votes. A good example of that being North Carolina and I think Pennsylvania to a lesser degree. Indeed, we may only have clarity on a final winner at the end of the weekend or just after. But certainly in terms of the betting odds markets, which tend to be quite smart at getting it right. I mean, Trump is now offered on odds of about 14-1, which basically places him pretty much as a rank outsider. So I think the view is quite firmly embedded in there that the Democratic Party looks to have won it.
Yeah. So apart from the expectation, there's really no logical reason why markets have been running and thumping hard. Why do you think that that's the case? And while we wait for the declaration of the real winner, which could be sometime into next week, are markets going to continue running hard, and what will be driving them?
Okay, so you touched earlier on the possibility of a stimulus package. Yes, I think we will probably see some kind of stimulus package. The quantum of it will obviously be up for discussion and will partially, I think, be impacted as to what happens in the Senate elections, which at this stage are looking like the Republicans will take that. But nevertheless, I do think a fairly chunky stimulus package will come forward. And I think as far as the market's running, I think it's probably a certain sense of relief in having a certainty of, right, well, that's more or less done and dusted and pretty much coming out of the way there. And markets tend to like certainty, and I think it is really as simplistic as that we now can move past elections. I mean, they certainly take up a lot of time and energy, certainly in the US context in particularly, and I think we're beyond that now. So, yeah, I think a sense of relief there.
Yeah. So European markets are down on the day, but our local market is on the up. And unfortunately, the local currency seems to have lost ground against major currencies. What's your reading of our local market right now?
Okay, so in terms of the local currency, I think we have been diverging quite substantially from emerging market currencies. And I think a big part of that is a reversion effect from the high of when South Africa got downgraded, and I think also a sense that local policy interventions are finally starting to get some traction, and that's the likes of electrical energy reform, subdivision of bandwidth spectrum, and so on. I think there's a growing sense and acceptance that Treasury has actually finally got the ruling party behind it, and that we're getting some real traction on these issues, and I think that's led the way to some currency outperformance there, which in turn is leading to a little bit of a recovery in terms of local stocks as opposed to the Rand hedge counters.
Yeah, I don't know how you characterize this year when you write in your notebook on the 1st of January 2021, but just in terms of all the volatility that there is in the market, how is Galileo approaching the situation? What's the investment philosophy right now?
Look, I think that the companies and the entities that have managed to carry their way forward through this time have a characteristic that, in terms of the companies themselves, they've tended to have conservative balance sheets, relatively robust business models that manage to keep ticking over even in the worst of times. And I think an element of indexation as well. I mean, indices have certainly, rather than underperforming as many in the active management camp, actually tended to outperform. So diversity has proved to be a substantial virtue in this environment. And I think although we sort of seen the end of the beginning, I think in terms of the tricky global environment, we still have not seen a vaccine. We haven't seen the end of second waves. And I don't think we've seen a transition to actually being societies that can function fully in spite of COVID. And therefore, I think there's quite a long path ahead.
Yeah, thanks
which markets have to digest.
Thanks very much, Warwick, for your time and insights always. Warwick Lucas, he's Chief Investment Officer at Galileo Capital. We're going to go for a quick break, and my colleague Diabosito will have SME on point for you.